bringing up facts. If I point a finger, that's point of attack. Good point, who's next? Flag on the plate, now I'm causing them dead. We bet on ourselves, so what you expect? A die-hard fan, never live with regret. Yes, sir. Go to my neck. Burgundy flex. Who wants the smoke? We bringing it home. Beat my gas. Look how we step. Who we got next? Step on the right, step on the left. Who do we rep? Commanders. Where's my soldiers? Right side. Commanders. Where's my soldiers? Left side. Commanders. Where's my soldiers? Right in the middle. Commanders. Where's my soldiers? High off the way that this sound, they turn up as soon as they feet hit the ground. I am not playing around. I hit them, I bet that they feeling me now.
Welcome, one and all across the nation and around the world. Happy New Year, and we are back for another episode of the Commanders Gridiron Report. I am your host, Drew Willingham, and we have another week to talk about. Another dumpster Pelican team, and this team right here for the Washington Commanders. We are here for episode 18, and on this episode, we have a returning guest who definitely puts a lot of miles on his vehicle to see this team up close and personal each and every week. This 4-12 greatness that we are watching of a dumpster Pelican-esque team. Welcome back, photographer from the Bowie TV Sports Network, along with the founder and literally does everything for the LegacyMaker Sports Network. Give it up for Darrell Owens. Welcome back, brother.
Yes, the 6 trillion miles that I put on poor, I call her old Lucy. She be pushing through though. So I much love to her. Much love to her.
Well, Lucy's getting you there live and in action for this team right here. And we've definitely got some great things to cover as far as the segments for this show. Not so much of a great team this year, but hopefully we got some things to look forward to for the future. But we'll definitely break it all down in the 6 segments that we have for today's show. Let's go ahead and start it off with the 1st and 10.
They are the Washington Commanders. New name, new marks, new uniform.
Soldiers, are we ready for Operation Burgundy?
And here with the 1st and 10, the San Francisco 49ers come to town to FedEx Field to take on the Commanders this past weekend, yesterday on New Year's Eve, and decisively get the victory, 27-10. A pretty good performance by that team. What are your thoughts, seeing what Brock Purdy was able to do coming off of a 4-interception game the week before and was able to bring this team back to relevance against the Commanders?
Well, first of all, Drew, thanks for having me on. I'm glad to come on and talk about the old Commanders. Left hand up. Who are we? The Commanders. With that being said, this game to me felt like a really tough game for Washington for, a lot of reasons. Obviously, the injuries, everything else. But I knew once I saw how bad San Francisco lost on Monday, I said, "Oh, this ain't gonna be good. This just ain't gonna be good," because you got an angry team who's the best team in the NFC who wants to bounce back from being embarrassed on Monday night. I'm like, this is the worst possible scenario for Washington in this game. Now, I will say this though: Washington played them tight all the way until the mid part of the 3rd quarter, and then it just started slowly dripping away then, but. Once they got that extended lead, once they made it, with beyond a possession, that's when I knew. I'm like, yeah, it's not going to happen here. This team doesn't know how to rally back. If they were in the mix, maybe they probably could have snuck one and pulled it off. But I still don't think San Francisco played their best ball yesterday. They played great late, but they didn't play their best ball yesterday. I feel bad for Washington, because I thought that they may have had a chance, like at the halftime. I was like, okay, wait a minute. Okay. And then obviously the Sam Howell interceptions didn't help. And, San Francisco capitalized off of them, and they ended up winning this one 27-10.
It definitely was, at least at halftime, it was pretty interesting. It was kind of close by that point. But by the second half, they just pulled away. And especially once you throw Sam Darnold in there. And Sam Darnold, you got to look at what he did in that one play. I mean, he almost gave the ball up in that one spot where he kind of threw the ball and then tucked it, and then he had to fall on or whatnot. That is why, Sam Darnold, you are the backup quarterback, and this is your best opportunity to get a championship as a quarterback in the NFL, because doing things like that is not what a first stringer does. So that's why you're in there for garbage time. But back to this team right here. I think that Sam Howell is better than Sam Darnold. And I think that if they give him the right pieces around him, and not just in players on the field, but the coaches to back him up and to bring his confidence back up. When we saw what we saw at the beginning of this season and how the season started, it looked like it was going to be a pretty decent year for them. It didn't look like they were going to be like what the 49ers are right now, but it looked like, as far as the Commanders, they could have easily gone like, 7-10 would have been more respectable, or 8-9. I saw that as a horizon, possibly at 9-8, because the schedule wasn't too bad this year.
Right.
But the turmoil that's been like a dark cloud over this team for quite some time. They got rid of most of it this past offseason when Dan Snyder was gone. They brought in the new ownership, but you still have a lot of pressure on you because this is an evaluation year. That's why they haven't let go of Ron Rivera. You and I have talked about that and several other shows. That's the whole reason why, you're going to be paying the man if you let him go anyway. So you might as well keep him. And if you do terrible, it just means you get a better draft pick next year. So, but overall, watching this team, I knew going into this that it wasn't going to be a pretty game because, like you said, they got smacked in the mouth last week. Brock Purdy throws those 4 interceptions. They wanted to prove something, and especially against a team that they know they could mollywop, and that being the Commanders. And, you got Ron Rivera calling the defensive plays. Jack Del Rio, been gone for quite some time now, since around Thanksgiving. Been gone for about a little over a month now. Ron Rivera in there calling plays. I don't know, to me, if that's just like one last gasp of saying, hey, I can still be a defensive coordinator somewhere else. But the way you've been proving it over the past month there, Riverboat Ron, I don't think that's going to be happening, because you're still giving up a good amount of points. 27 is more respectable than what Jack Del Rio was giving up on average for his teams on a weekly basis. But thinking about this, I feel really bad, not only for Sam Howell, but I feel bad for EB. Because he leaves the Chiefs. There's a lot of hype on him. Comes here. It starts out well the first month. The first month, I was happy with what I was seeing out of this team. September was looking pretty good and pretty promising for the future. Wasn't looking good for the Giants. And I was saying a lot about that, saying they were going to go 1-7 to start the season. And boy, was I wrong when it came to the Giants. When it comes to this team right here, the Commanders, though, they flipped the script and did exactly what I thought the Giants were going to do. Now, going into week 18, it's a dumpster fire, my man.
So here's the thing. You made a good point about it at the beginning. So at the beginning part of this season, that first month, I'll say up until about week 9 when they won their last game. Okay, so heading into that part, 2 games against Philly, which they, in my opinion, they should have won at least one of them. They were leading in both of those games, and leading in those games like 17-7, 17, like they were up. And I'm like, man, they can win this. Second halves killed them in those games. And then Philly ended up scoring 30 points in both of those games, telling you how bad this defense has been this year and disappointing this defense has been, because I've always felt with the talent they had on this team, even in training camp, I'm like, man, they got Super Bowl caliber defense. And I always thought that the problem was going to be the offense. Like, if the offense could figure it out, well, they end up being the defense was the main problem. The offense had its problem, obviously had its problems. And it just wasn't like, they just couldn't figure it all out. But there was a lot of games that, I thought that they could have maybe got into, I think that second Eagles game, they could have been like 7-2, 7-3. The only games I think they truly lost up until that point was the Chicago game where they got decimated, and they shouldn't have lost that game because it was the Chicago Bears. Like they went into that game heavy favorites. Once Dick Buckets had passed away before the game, I knew they were losing that game. But and then the Bills game. And, those are the only like true games, in my opinion, they lost. Lost 2 tough ones to the Eagles, lost to the Giants again. They probably shouldn't have lost. And you looked at it and said, man, they're losing games they shouldn't lose. Like, come on. And then now since the, New Orleans game, since the New England game, I don't know what to call what I'm seeing. That's how bad it's been. Like, it's tough. There's so many elements to it, Drew, and I watch it and I want to see the team do well, and you want to see the team and the fan base get something to cheer about. And I look back a couple of weeks ago, right before they went into the Giants game, 30 years, 1993, last time that they, after they won a Super Bowl, it's been 30 years. They've had 8 winning seasons above 500 since that time frame. And I think it's like 13 or 14 if you add the 500 years. And I'm like, fan base don't deserve that. The Lions have went through it for years. The Browns have went through it for years. They're finally getting the fruits of their labor after all that time frame. And you can only hope that Washington finally gets that way as well.
Take me to the moment when Christian Holmes collapsed on the turf. What was the energy like around with that? I mean, he seemed like he's in pretty good spirits. I mean, he was sitting up when they showed that angle on TV, but being there, what was that situation like? When he gives, I mean, he was coming in and filling in. I mean, he was getting the start yesterday, filling in, and then collapses. I mean, tell me about that experience.
Well, I was on the opposite side of the end zone at that time, and you saw it happen. At first, we couldn't tell who it was. I had to use my camera lens to kind of zoom in to see what number it was at the time, and you hated to see it. And, it got really quiet. They brought out the cart. They brought out the cart, and I thought they were going to take him off, but he eventually was able to get up on his own. And you never want to see things like that. Me and you, we were there for Alex Smith. we were there. We were there for Alex Smith, and that the feeling every time something like that happens, the eeriness of the crowd getting quiet. It's a weird feeling, and you don't wish it upon anybody. I was just glad to see that he got up, and he's one of those young players on that team that had to kind of work his way from the bottom to get where he was. And so it's, glad that he's okay, or at least, he was able to get up, but definitely something you don't want to see, man. It was definitely one of those eerie feelings. Definitely one of them.
Yeah, I didn't feel quite like I did when, I was there with you with Alex Smith.
Yeah,
I mean, at least that was a completely different thing. I hope nobody ever goes through that. And that was my first NFL game covered. Like, just being there and seeing Alex Smith. I mean, it's pretty devastating. But we all know his story. He came back and,
he did his thing,
which nobody expected for him to do what he did. But he came back and still played a little bit, and retired. But this situation, don't see this being a situation where we see this man, Christian Holmes, having to retire. No. But it's just everything that we've seen this year out of this team, it's an added layer of negativity that we've got to see. And we're not even done yet. We got one more week.
Still got one more week. It's crazy, Drew. Like, you feel bad. Like I said before, you feel bad for the fan base, but there's so many different elements to this team to make you feel like, could this season have went better? And I'll be honest with you, there's some people say, hey, maybe they should have took Sam out a little bit earlier. Some people say, hey, why did they wait so long to make changes on the offensive line? We saw once they made changes on the offensive line, Sam was playing a lot better during that time frame when they first made the changes. When they had to go back to Nick Gates, Nick Gates at center, that switch between him and Larson has been the difference. And obviously, it was just those things on the offensive front. And then obviously Sam throwing the picks. But some of those Sam's picks were, hey, I'm a rookie trying to figure it out in the NFL. Some of them were just plain bad. Some of them were, hey, throw the ball away. And I can't blame him for saying, hey, let me go out here and try to make a play. I mean, that's the quarterback's mentality. In most cases, they're going to try to go out there and make the play. And I think, how much could they have benefited if Jacoby Brissett was in those situations and some of those situations, because Jacoby's not going to make that mistake. Jacoby's going to throw the ball away. He's going to do this and that. So you look at that perspective. On the defensive side of things, did they let go of Darrell early? Does that make a difference? Obviously, it looks like that wouldn't have been the case at all, because we've seen what we've seen. They went from averaging 30 points of defense per game to like 20, like you said, 27 now. So it's like a three-point difference. They're still giving up a lot of points. But then I also said, well, what if they decided, okay, Rivera, we let you go a little bit early, see what EB does running the team. Does that make it better? So many questions. Next Monday is going to be interesting. I'll be there for the exit interviews. I don't know if Rivera will be there when the time comes. We don't know. I mean, we know that he's not going to be there, but we don't know if they're going to let him stay long enough to be there for that. So, yeah.
I think it one way or another he'll have some type of exit interview. I think with them hanging on to him this long, they're at least going to respectfully let him go. They're at this point you got one more week to go, and he's dealing with it. So we'll see how it goes between now and then. But we do have a few comments here in the chat. We got to acknowledge old Ike's in the house that says, "Yo,
Yoey,
Happy New Year, Fockers," because he is Ike doesn't give a fuck, and he threw the New Year in there to correct that, as well as Sick Dicky in the house saying, "What's good, everybody?" Well, what's up, Sick? Appreciate you for joining in. And Ike even says, "My Giants whooped them twice."
Yeah, and that I think that was the one that gave me a lot of disheartening, because I remember talking before the game to my colleague Candy. Candy, I know she was on a couple weeks ago. We were talking before the game one time, and I said, "Hey, they're not going to beat the Giants, even though they should. On paper, they should beat the Giants. There's no reason why on paper they shouldn't beat the Giants team. But since 2000, the Giants just have a hold on them. I think like the record is like 30, 36 and 14, or like they just have the advantage over them. And they whatever it is, especially in the last couple of years, they just can't get over the hump. No matter what the Commanders' record is, just can't beat them. It's the weirdest thing. It's the weirdest thing.
Especially when you got Tommy, don't call me Tony DeVito, is their backup quarterback or third string quarterback doing what, not quite to the level what Brock Purdy was doing last year at the 49ers, but those two teams are totally different. So you put Tommy DeVito on the 49ers, he may not have the same type of success, but he won't be playing like he is with the Giants either.
No, Matilda's dad would be on top of it. That's my nickname for old Tommy. Old Matilda's dad. I think he did a really good heck. He beat Green Bay. He went on the 3-game win streak, and I think it would have been, there. To be honest with you, I think they might have won more games if Tyrod was healthier, because they didn't turn over the ball like talking about when Tyrod was in at QB. Like, he really took good. He's always been that quarterback. He took really good care of the football. He was that way at Tech. He was that way in Buffalo when he took him to the playoffs for the first time. He's always been that quarterback. So who knows what the Giants season could have ended up being like if that had kept going along. So
definitely be interesting to see what they do during the offseason as well. There's going to be a lot of moves made in this offseason for a lot of teams. So it's going to be a very interesting offseason in 2024. But speaking of which, when it comes to reviewing things, let's go into this into the Burgundy Flex review. Got to talk about Sammy real quick.
Go to my neck, Burgundy Flex. Who wants the smoke? We bringing it home. Be my guest.
And here the Burgundy Flex review. The looks on their faces right there. It comes to this situation as Sam Howell throws 2 interceptions in return to starting quarterback role. Seeing this up front, the pressures within, the pressures around. What were your thoughts with seeing this? I mean, his performance obviously improved from the week before.
It did.
Because he at least threw triple digits in yards. But those 2 interceptions definitely didn't help the cause for this Commanders team. What is your biggest takeaway with seeing that in his performance yesterday?
I've started off like, man, when he threw that bomb to Terry, and I said, okay, that's the Sam Howell that everybody knows he can be, where he's confident, he's got the time, he's got the cannon arm. That's the Sam Howell. I was like, if he plays like this in this game, they got a chance. The way the game was going, they got a chance to win this thing. And it slowly but surely kind of went away. I saw EB try to do what he did like a couple of weeks after they did the line change, where he was, deacon and dunking and, doing some screen pass and trying to get Sam comfortable and confident. I thought that was a really critical thing, for him to do during that time frame. So it's like you saw the confidence build a little bit, and then in the second half, it slowly started going away again. I think, for me, the more I look at Sam Howell and to evaluate his season, I know people want to say, hey, man, get out of there. You're done. Let's go draft Caleb Williams. We got the number 2 pick as of right now. They got the number 2 pick in the draft. Let's go get Caleb Williams. Let's go get May and all that stuff. But I'm probably one of the few Commanders outlookers or enthusiasts that will say, I still have some faith in Sam Howell. It's his first year in that offense. And it's also one of those things that people have to really think like, and I'll throw Jordan Love as an example. Jordan Love was behind Aaron Rodgers, obviously. So he has a chance to sit and watch a good quarterback kind of move, maneuver, mannerisms, you name it, because you can see it in Jordan Love's play. Every time you see Jordan Love out there, sidearm and doing the fadeaway, everything. Just small things like that's a little bit of Aaron in him. But that's the unfortunate part for Sam, because Washington hasn't had that. They haven't had that guy he could just sit and say, let me watch this guy be good. And let me see what this guy, being good, what that looks like, and see if I can replicate it. Yeah, there you go, replicate it and do something in that range. And that's a lot of young quarterbacks, unfortunately. The Desmond Ritters of the world. All those guys who had a lot of promise maybe coming out. The Kenny Pickett at times is a little shaky. But these young quarterbacks don't get that opportunity to sit back, relax, and learn from that veteran quarterback in front of him. It's a tough thing. And for me, I watch him and I still have faith in the guy to an extent. He was first in the league in passing yards at one point, like just a couple of weeks ago. And now it's not the same thing. But I like Sam Howell. I want to see him do well, man. But I don't know if the new regime is going to have that patience for that. They may go veteran quarterback. Hey, Russell Wilson is out there now.
Please don't.
I'm sorry. I had to throw it in there.
Oh, I mean, it would be more of like a homecoming for him, but please don't. Please don't.
I don't think it's happening.
I think there's a difference in today's quarterbacks than what we saw 25 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Because Peyton Manning didn't have that type of quarterback
True.
that he needed to sit behind. He was hungry enough to where he was not only watching game footage, he was going back and watching like practice footage of like quarterbacks, like in how they do their routines. And he had developed his own routine from, him being like a quarterback machine since he was a kid. I wouldn't say that Archie developed him from an early age to be what he was. Peyton wanted to be that. Like
Right.
it wasn't. I forget that one quarter. That one. He was a defensive player for the Raiders back in the day, like in the early '90s. But his dad like pushed him and pushed him and pushed him and made him like into this mega machine. But then he broke and then got bad on drugs and just fell out of football. I forget who his name is.
Romanowski? Not
Romanowski. Because Romanowski won Super Bowls. This was like late '80s, early '90s. There was a documentary, like a 30 for 30 on him and everything. But I can't remember his name right now because it was like 10, 15 years ago. It was like one of the first 30 for 30s or whatever.
It's gonna bother me. It's gonna bother me.
I'll
check it out after the show.
I'm gonna look it up during a commercial break here in a minute because I'm gonna have to have an answer. But thinking about that, Peyton Manning wasn't like that. He wanted to be what he was. Now fast forward to today. I'm not trying to throw like shade on all of our quarterbacks, but league, but Brock Purdy, I think, is a very rare scenario where you have somebody who like has put the work in to not only physically what you can do on the field, because most of them nowadays put a lot of the work into the physical, but they don't put it in enough up here in preparation. Not saying you're stupid, you're just not making
That's a good one.
you're not making the time to develop your mind more. Like Peyton Manning, like he still does it. He sleeps, breathes football, not as much as he did back then. That's why he can break things down like he does, and that's why him and Eli have that Monday Night Football show where they're doing their own Monday Night Football broadcast. So I say, you definitely have some great points when it comes to Jordan Love and him sitting behind Aaron Rodgers. But I think that today's generation of football quarterbacks and players in general need to get a little bit more hungry and watch more film, because you can watch the practice footage. There's cameras everywhere, all the practice, like practice, walkthroughs, everything. You can literally see, except for behind the scenes, the person actually studying the film, you can see what the results are on the field and just replicate that.
I agree with you on that. And there is a lot of resources now for these quarterbacks. And I think that's why it would be harder to do what Green Bay did nowadays and have somebody. You'd have to have a Tom Brady or or Peyton Manning. You have to have somebody in front of you that ain't going nowhere, but their window is closing. And like I said, that's what I said. A lot of teams are not going to be able to do that. But you got to have that hunger. I agree with you 1,000%. You got to have that hunger in order to take that step in the next level. And being around Sam, he's kind of a quiet guy for the most part. He's not like very vocal per se. He's not like one of those like rah, rah, rah. He tries to, he's always been one of those, from what I can tell, like, let me go out there and show you what I can do or whatever. I think, unfortunately, this year, the combination of everything that's going on with that organization hasn't helped him overall to become the quarterback I think he could possibly be. And I think if they give him time, he still may have a shot at it. But like I said, I just don't know if they're going to give him that time, because this is a hungry fan base. This is a hungry fan base. Like the Browns, I would say, has always been a hungry fan base. They've just never been able to figure it out. Lions, they're like, whatever. But the Commanders / Washington Redskins / Washington football team organization, that franchise, they're used to Super Bowl championships. They got 3 of those bad boys hanging up, 5 overall total championships. They're a championship organization, and they got a fan base that they're hungry and they care. And so you've got to fix that. 30 years is when you're over rebuilding. No, 30 years is a long time to only have 8 winning seasons. No, they want this and they deserve this. So I don't know if he's going to get that time, though, Drew. Just don't think he's going to get that time.
The only problem with being as hungry as they have been for 30 years is so many fans have starved to death. They have starved to death. It has been 32 years. 32 years.
That's a
And
good
I'm
one.
about to be 37 in 6 days.
Oh,
We've been
shit.
starving to death. Like, it's amazing that I got a little bit of meat on the bones as much as I've been starving for a championship every year. They're 5 years old.
He heard
5 years old when they last won the Super Bowl.
my man hurting.
Yeah, I'm
He's like,
so bad.
I was 5 years old, man. I'm starving.
Like, yeah. Well, I'm healthy enough to do it. I just want to be able to drink an adult beverage while watching my team play in the Super Bowl. Just one. Just one adult beverage.
That's just one. I ain't asking for a lot. Couple sips.
Yeah.
And see what happens from there.
Yeah. If it's a good night, maybe 2, but mainly
Right.
just one. I
Just
just want one and watch my team Super Bowl because I can at least say I can have that gasp.
You're right. I was about to say, it finally happened. That's all I asked for. That's all I asked for.
And speaking of perfect time is sick, Nicky. The frustrations of Drew Willingham are brought to you by Peanut Butter and Jealous, now available in ground and pound peach and chokeslam apricot. Along with country fried chimpkins, extra spicy wings, and extra crispy thighs.
I love thighs. Thighs is my favorite part of the chicken. Easy by far.
Absolutely.
That's not even close.
And one last comment before we go to commercial break. How you doing, Sensei Drew? I'm doing just fine. We are in the new year. Happy New Year to all of you. The first episode of this show for 2024. The first brand of comment of content for Sartoba Media in 2024. Also, shout out to A7BN Sports and Team MBS Media for having this show as well. We will see you guys here after this quick commercial break. We'll see you here on the other side.
Commanders, where my soldiers, right side. Commanders, where my soldiers, left side.
Football, and more football, you say? Well, tune in to Total Football Talk. Join your hosts, Drew Willingham.
You were playing like a dumpster Pelican quarterback.
And Cole Johnson.
It sets up a possible play action. Did you hear that, Dak Prescott?
As they take you through all the paces, both on the field and in the boardroom, of Total Football Talk. Every Tuesday at
9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central.
Exclusively on the Sartoba Media and the Comey Media Incorporated YouTube channel.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, look. Hey, stop playing games. Y'all already know. Go ahead and toss him some Willie Bucks. Ain't nobody playing around. Hey, $ D Willie 87. Go ahead and hit him up on the Cash App and go ahead and give him some Willie Bucks. Look at Drew looking stoic, ladies and gentlemen. Stoic on that $10 bill. So go ahead, slide my man over some Willie Bucks, and we good. That's all I'm saying. We good. How about some Willie Bucks?
Sartoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
If you're looking for a sports program that gives you the flavor.
Washington Commanders? Really?
This whole thing stinks to high heaven.
That pulls no punches.
Thuggish act by a thuggish actor.
That gives you some humor.
Praise everything LeBron does and never criticize it.
If you want a show that gives you good times, then this is that show. BS3 Network proudly presents
I am Cole Johnson, and welcome to
Cole Sports with a Z. Every Friday on Patreon and every Saturday on YouTube, Spreaker, and all other outlets.
Commanders, where my soldiers, right side. Commanders, where my soldiers, left side.
Welcome back to the Commanders Gridiron Report, a show where we have coverage of one hopeless team. I am Drew Willingham, along with the man, myth, and the legend, Darrell Owens. I'm just trying to put as much humor behind the spin of the team as I can to have something to look forward to, because it's a depressing year if you are a Commanders fan. And shout out to all of you who are watching the show right now, whether you're a Commanders fan or not. If you're a Commanders fan, you definitely have the heart of a lion when it comes to watching the show right now, because of all the tales of woe that you have been a part of this year. Let's go ahead and keep this thing going, and we'll see what kind of MVPs we have for this week.
Where my soldiers, right side. Commanders, where my soldiers, left side.
And here for the soldiers of the week, absolutely nobody for the Commanders gets it, but I will give it to
Hey, yo, that's insane.
I could give it to anybody on the Commanders because I didn't feel like they deserved it.
Shoot.
So when it comes to this game, we got Commanders and we got soldiers from the Commanders, but those soldiers of the week will be coming from the 49ers as Brock Purdy, 22 of 28, 230 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, led that team from a bounce-back victory after throwing 4 interceptions the week before. Brandon Ayuk, 7 receptions, 114 receiving yards, and 1 receiving touchdown. Along with Travarius Ward, 3 tackles, 1 assist, along with another interception to add to his totals for this season, as number 7 racked up his 7th interception of the season. You know, it's sad that I couldn't give it to anybody from the Commanders, but there was one game a few weeks back where the game was so bad, I gave it to absolutely nobody.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. I bet you I can figure out what game that was. That probably was the Giants game. It had to be the Giants game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was the Giants game.
I gave it to absolutely nobody. That's just how bad that game was. I couldn't do it. I couldn't.
Probably was the first one.
Yep.
First one, yeah.
Yep, the first one ever, and I hope I never have to do that again, because I'll have to find that clip, and I should have brought it for today, but I just ran out of time. But when it comes to this right here, in the soldiers that we have of the week for this one, I just felt like that. Was there anybody else outside of these 3, Darrell, that you would say, you know, even if you felt like somebody from the Commanders and I got it wrong, was there anybody that you believe that did, you know, I wouldn't say better, but deserved to be added on to the list?
All right. Just to be nice to the Commanders, I'm gonna just say Terry. I'm gonna go ahead and give Terry McLaurin some love. He had 4 receptions, I think 61 yards in a TD. And I only want to do that because #free Terry. I've been saying that for the last couple. Look, here's the deal. Terry McLaurin is a good receiver. I hear people, we debate sometimes, and like, is he a number 1? Terry's a number 1 receiver. Problem is, you gotta get him the ball. You can't, and people say, do you think he could be? No, he's a number 1 receiver, but the problem is they don't give him the ball. You gotta give the guy the ball. And you know, he produced yesterday a little bit when he got the ball, got the touchdown early, and you know, gave the Commanders fans some hope early in that contest. So I'll give Terry that love. I thought that Elijah Mitchell, who came in and produced some really good moments for the 49ers, scored a touchdown in there, came up in a backup role because McCaffrey got hurt. It kind of hurt my feelings because I needed him in that championship game. I lost in my fantasy last night by 1 point, and he went down. I just needed 1 touchdown. I probably would have won, but it's okay. It's okay. but even with that being said, Elijah Mitchell had a really good job, but it also tells you the depth that they had on the 49ers, because when you can have a guy like McCaffrey go down and you can bring in a guy like Mitchell who can just come in and produce right away, then they got a guy behind him and Jordan Mason. If they, get in real trouble, they can bring Jordan Mason in and he can produce a little bit and they still will be fine. And that's what every, I think, franchise strives for. You want to be able to, like, if the second or third guy goes down, the third guy's going to come in and produce. That's what you're seeing from the Baltimore Ravens right now. They get nicked up. It doesn't even make a difference. Mark Andrews ain't been there in weeks, and Isaiah Likely comes in, and he looks like he can start on any team in the league right now easily. And I think that's what every franchise strives for. So I want to definitely give him love. Debo had some good moments yesterday, but, yeah, for me, I would say Mitchell, throw Debo in there, and I'll also throw McLaurin because, just to be nice.
Yeah, and he was, he did contribute the touchdown towards giving them 10 points. It's just,
I understand.
I'm just disgusted with this team.
You don't have to.
Yeah, and I feel bad for Terry McLaurin too. And I see your point for free Terry, but he signed the contract. So
he did.
He made his own choice. So, but yeah, and I maybe once that contract's up, he'll probably go somewhere else if this team doesn't improve drastically within the remainder of his contract. And they got a lot of work to do this offseason if they wanted to keep Terry. It needs to be hashtag. They need to change it to positive spin and hashtag keep Terry by working on a plan to get this team better. And at least the positive part is you have Magic Johnson as part of this front office.
Yes, most definitely.
Ownership that's going to improve this situation at some point. Now, they're going to be able to turn it around in a year. It doesn't look like they're going to be able to, Rome wasn't built in a day. They're not going to be able to turn it around as fast as we would like them to. I can see them being a contender in about 5 to 7 years, though. But Terry McLaurin probably won't be there when that happens.
Well, I don't know, Drew. I mean, you got to look at other teams. And I know I'll give you the prime example where I think they could turn it around within the next 2. That's the Houston Texans. Because when you look at Houston, I think me and you've talked about this in the past. Like, Houston is absolutely before this year, I was like, yo, we were debating on who was the worst franchise. Was it Washington or was it Houston?
And nobody saw this coming from them this year.
No one saw this coming. And just in 1 year, I think the opinion on the Houston Texans has completely changed. And people are like, look what DeMeco Ryans has done as a head coach. They bring in a young guy. And this is why I think Washington, you have to really think about where you make these next moves. Look what Houston did. They brought in a young coach who had some type of connection to the organization, who was able to bring out the best in his young players. You bring in a guy like C.J. Stroud, and a lot of people thought he should have been the first pick. Heck, the Frank Wright wanted him to be the first pick, and the owner said, "Nah, bro." And now and nothing against Bryce Young, but we're seeing the results. And then Anderson comes in as that third pick. He's doing amazing things. They can make the playoffs. If they win this week, and I believe the Jaguars lose, they're in the playoffs after being the worst team in football. Or the second worst team in football. And so it's possible, but we don't know. We just going to keep our fingers crossed, right?
No, you're absolutely right. And my Total Football Talk co-host, Cole Johnson, will love everything you just said because he's a Houston Texans fan.
Legend.
But either way, whether they make the playoffs or not, something I'll definitely be looking forward to talking to him about with tomorrow morning. Whether you make the playoffs or not, you still had a winning record, bro.
Yeah.
You still had a winning record this year. Yep. Win or lose this upcoming week, you'll still at least finish 9-8. You can still finish 10-7. You can still have double-digit wins. Nobody saw that coming either. So thinking about that very, very big turnaround year, you bring some great points. I don't think that the Commanders are going to turn around that fast, and they're going to have to change the name of the team before they have any hope of turning it around as fast as the Texans.
Do you think – so that's the one thing I've been interested in too, because that talk was big early in the season. It's kind of died down. No one's brought it up. I'm intrigued to see if they actually make that move again. I told somebody if they don't make the move, what they need to do is make sure that they do retro games where they highlight and I think at least bring back the old jerseys, bring back the old helmet. I know people will not gonna be happy about it.
The logo and everything.
Yeah, bring the logo back.
I would love that too. My whole left arm would love that too.
Yeah, whole left arm would love it. My thing is, I think if you do it once or twice a year, kind of how like what you see like the Houston Oilers jerseys with the Titans, and I think you just do at least 2 or 3 of those games, and give the fan base something. Yeah, he should. he should hate it because you would think that the Houston Texans would be the Houston Oilers, but the Titans said, nah, bro, you can't have it. So that's why they had to end up being the Texans, because they wouldn't let him bring it back. They wouldn't let him have it. But so I understand his hate.
Yeah, and that's why they had to change it from the Tennessee Oilers to the Titans.
Yeah,
they were the Tennessee Oilers for a couple of years before they had to change the Titans in '99.
Exactly. So I mean, for me, I would like at least that. If they don't change, and if they decide to keep it, you got to do something retro, even if it's the old school one they used to have with the arrow, something. You know, the old school yellow helmets with the R, with the old school, like the first Super Bowl champions.
I think we'll get that.
Yeah,
we could get that or the feather. You know,
yes,
but we're not going to get the original. You know, I don't even want to go there because it makes my heart bleed. So
when you poop your pants, if it happens, you'd be like, "Ooh!"
I would proudly do that. I would proudly do it. I'd throw them away afterwards.
I mean, you have to.
And not putting those units in the wash machine. With that being said, speaking of stoppage, let's go take it to the show stop.
That's great.
The way that this sound, they turn up as soon as they feet the ground. I am not playing around. I hit them, I bet that they feeling me now.
And now with the showstopper. Speaking of the quarterback debacles there for the Commanders, should they go ahead and start Jake Fromm if Jacoby Brissett can't go in Week 18? How do you feel about this, Darrell, with everything we've seen this year between Sam Howell, Jacoby Brissett when he's come in, those 5 drives that he's led, getting scores out of him. There's production with Jacoby Brissett because he's a little bit more mobile back there. And read defense is a little bit better than Sam Howell because he has the experience. Jake Fromm, though, I don't think would be an improvement from Sam Howell. But what do you think? Do you think Jake Fromm should start if Jacoby Brissett can't go this final week?
No, nothing against Jake Fromm. I mean, the only time I really seen Jake play was in that 3rd game of the preseason against the Bengals. I think it was against the Bengals. Yeah, against the Bengals. And he had some good moments in that, but that is 3rd stringers going up against 3rd stringers. And if I had to be real honest with you, I think I'd rather just see Sam close it out one way or the other. Ron Rivera all year long has talked about how he is all about the development of Sam Howell. And, he talks about it almost every other press conference because they always bring it up. But he's been loyal to him the entire time, other than obviously I think he got to the point where Sam has been so beat up the last couple of weeks, between the picks, between the sack, whatever you want to call it, decided to go with Jacoby. And I think, I just think that it'd be better off just finish it up with Sam. That's where the whole Sam hype came from last year when he was able to beat Dallas 26-6. And it's one of those things where I would rather just see that if Jacoby can't go. And I'll be honest with you, I think Jacoby probably could have went this week. This is the conspiracy theory in me, but I think what happened really was, Jacoby has been like behind Sam the entire time. I mean, class act guy. And after the Jets game, Jacoby came in the press conference room, said what he had to say. And, when he left, Sam came in afterwards and he sat there and this is rare for a player to do. He sat in the corner and just to be there to support Sam while he was doing the press conference, which I thought was pretty cool because you don't, even with just in any situation, you usually don't just see it. And he was just there to support him. And they both talked about how the support system for each other. What I think happened was, Jacoby Brissett is a free agent. And he probably had said to myself, look, might as well let Sam finish it. This is what I'm thinking, like mentally. There's no need for him to go out there and get hurt, because his free agent value is going to go up, because in the 2 moments that he did come into the game, he led them back and he was efficient in both games. So I think it's more of a thing like he probably told him, look, I don't let Sam go because, I'm a free agent. They don't know what the team is going to do next year. Why risk him being hurt and then he don't get a payday? Now, like, that's conspiracy theory me. But
it makes a lot of sense.
But that's conspiracy theory me. And I just say, well, that's for him to just take a step back, let Sam finish it up. And I think, if he does play, great. But if he doesn't, that's why I think the real reason is. And he may have some hamstring issues, but I don't think it's as bad as what people are saying, because it just came out of nowhere. And all of a sudden, it was like, oh, I got a hamstring. And it was like Thursday night. And it was like, okay, well, Sam's starting. So I don't think that's the case. I think he wanted Sam to start. That's just me.
When it comes to should Jake Fromm start if Jacoby Brissett can't go, this is my answer.
Hell to the no, to the no, 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 no. Hell no, to the no.
Shout out to the late Bishop Bullwinkle for that one. I absolutely love you forever and always. Because when it comes to this right here, I can't go with Jake Fromm. He's not proven enough. Sam Howell needs the reps, needs the experience. And you laid the roadmap out perfectly because that's exactly what I was thinking. Like, what does Jacoby Brissett have to prove? He's already done enough. If you go out there, you could potentially hurt your stock, going into the offseason if you have a bad performance. So whether you come back to the Commanders or you go become a starter or a little bit of a higher valued backup somewhere else on a better team, that's what Jacoby Brissett's looking at because he wants to get another ring on the way out because he was, behind Tom Brady when he, had the fourth ring, I believe, the fourth or fifth ring that Tom Brady got.
I believe so, yeah.
I think it was just one maybe that he was there for, but
I think it was one, and then he ended up going to Indianapolis in a trade, I believe. Yeah.
Because Jimmy G was there for a couple. But, Jacoby Brissett, I've felt bad for him for so many years because, there was many opportunities where and I thought Indy was going to be one of them, especially when Andrew Luck, decided to retire abruptly. I thought that was going to be a shot to kind of lead a team to, a pretty good team to playoff-bound success, and we didn't see that. And potentially – there's been some murmurs there in the dark of we could have had that this year with the Commanders and Jacoby played all year, especially when you're paying the man, like $10 million to come and be the quarterback or at least to be the one that's helping mold Sam. But I think he did his job by helping mold Sam because Sam was very well prepared that first 4 to 6 weeks of the season. I really liked what I saw the first 4 to 6 weeks. Then after that, the wheels just came off, and it's the testament to the team completely all around, not more so Sam. The offensive line definitely with the moving pieces around, like you brought up earlier in the show, that definitely had a big effect on the trajectory of how the offensive played. But the defense is just giving up way too many points between the offensive line giving up too many sacks and the defense giving up too many points. We've seen way too much of that this year. There's too many inconsistencies, and that's why we'll see the moves that are made this offseason. And speaking of which, we do have a comment here. We got Mickey Delaney in the house, old big teddy bear 1100, saying, "Hi, Drew. Hi, Darrell. How are you?" Well,
how you doing, sir?
And thank you very much for tuning in there, Mick. As always, I call Mick one of my super fans there, Darrell. He's here like every show. Ike used to be here like every show, but he's kind of fallen off the map. Ike, you need to step it up a little bit. Get back here every show, especially Kyle Nash's shows too. I haven't seen you in the comments over there in a while. It's time for you to step it up. Mick, and also Mick is the comment cop. I call him that because
the comment cop.
Yeah, he tells people to stay in their lane. So hey, Mick,
great.
Make sure you tell Ike to stay in his lane here in the comments. I'm gonna be looking during this commercial break.
Get him straight.
Get him straight. He's the comment cop. He's bounced around on many different shows. I've seen him as far as in the comments, but definitely been a good super fan that we got. And speaking of which, we got one last commercial break, 2 minutes. Then we'll come on back. We've got the opponent of the week in the final word, a.k.a. the final drive. See you guys here on the other side.
Commanders, where my soldiers, right side. Commanders, where my soldiers, left side.
Everything Boston. I love you morons. New Kids on the Block, New Edition,
Dear whatever the law firm is. Sincerely, the U.S. Supreme Court.
Ben Affleck, Matt Damon. Go yourself again, Jason
Gentlemen, hey, look, hey, stop playing games. Y'all already know. Go ahead and toss him some Willie Bucks. Ain't nobody playing around. Hey, $sign D Willie 87. Go ahead, hit him up on the Cash App, and go ahead and give him some Willie Bucks. Look at Drew looking stoic, ladies and gentlemen, stoic on that $10 bill. So go ahead, slide my man over some Willie Bucks, and we good. That's all I'm saying. We good. Some Willie Bucks.
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Oh, yes. The tradition, the pageantry, the spectacle, the history, the slut. Wait. I gotta rep my brother's stuff right. All my DMV soldiers, stand up! And welcome to the Commanders Gridiron Report. You want your Commanders to be repped right? Well, D. Willie is your man. Commanders Gridiron Report. Every Monday at 3:05 p.m. Eastern, 2:05 p.m. Central. Exclusively on the Surtoba Media YouTube channel. Music by J. Cool.
Where my soldiers? Right side. Commanders. Where my soldiers? Left side.
Surtoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Commanders. Where my soldiers? Right side. Commanders. Where my soldiers? Left side.
Welcome back from the final commercial break of episode 18. Myself, Drew Willingham, along with Darrell Owens. We have two final segments left for this episode, and we got to bring it on up to the next opponent that we have for the final opponent of this year. Well, 2023, last year, new year. It's confusing. 2024 it is. Let's talk about this team we got next week.
Look how we step. Who we got next? Step on the right, step on the left. Who do we rep?
On the trailblazingest day of the year, there's one final matchup, and what a great birthday gift to myself to get this season over with, and that being with the Dallas Cowboys come to town. The 11-5 Dallas Cowboys come to town to take on the Washington Commanders at FedEx Field. Speaking of everything that we've talked about throughout this episode, and what we saw the first go around in the first game with the Dallas Cowboys and Jerry World, you were there for that one. Talk about what your expectations are for this upcoming week for the final game of the year.
This is actually a tough one, because here's the deal. If you're Washington, you got a lot of players at this point that if you're not mentally there, you need to be, because this is your audition for your final audition for a team next year. If you're not a commander, or somebody would say, hey, maybe I can pick that person up and maybe I can mold him to what I think he could be. Maybe I see some things that the Washington Commanders coaching staff doesn't see. So if you're a Washington Commander player, this game one is Dallas. So if you don't come to play for Dallas, then you don't need to be playing like that. That's the first thing. If you're a Commanders player, you need to come out there because this is Dallas. Plus, if anything, last year you went in there, you ruined Dallas's playoff plans a little bit. They made the playoffs, but you ruined some opportunities. Well, guess what? You have an opportunity this time to do the same thing. A win and a win for the Commanders and the Eagles win will jump shoot the Eagles back into that 2 spot and then slide the Cowboys back to the 5th spot. And that means the Cowboys have got to go on the road. And the Cowboys don't do well outside of Jerry's world. They struggle on the road, and especially if it's in the elements for any reason. We saw what happened in Buffalo a couple of weeks ago. That was rough. So it's like you want to be at home if you're Dallas. And so they're going to have to come and play against the Commanders team, and they're going to come out and play because they want to win the division. When a lot of people didn't think they would win the division, and this would be the Eagles division, they've got a chance to say, hey, no, we're division champs. We've got the spot. So I expect the Commanders players to come out and play. It is the last game of the season, and I do think they're gonna fight harder than we saw in that first game. They have to. If not, the changes are going to be plentiful the following the next day.
Yeah, because hey, like 4 with them last time, 45-10. Sam Howell did throw for 300 yards, but couldn't get the ball in the end zone in the air. Threw an interception in that game. Dakota Rain Prescott threw for 4 touchdowns. Definitely was a big part of their win in that game. But looking at how they played the Lions this past week, the Lions could have tied that game, and we could have seen an overtime game, and potentially the momentum would have shifted back in the Lions' favor. But Man Campbell biting off kneecaps over there.
Hey,
you know what he's doing. He wanted to go for that win, and it had 3 tries.
Yeah,
3 tries. And after the second try, I think myself, would say at that point, it's meant
for kick the field goal.
Kick the field goal.
Kick the field goal.
Go ahead and tie it on up. Something's telling me that after 2 times, it ain't gonna work. Trying the same thing. At least he did try to call the plays a little bit differently. But now looking at this situation here, the type of team that the Commanders are not going to give that much trouble to that Cowboys defense, especially on offense with the way their front is protecting Sam. There's no way that he's going to have it. Even though I will say this, on the very special edition of the Inter-Out Sports Debate last month, the Christmas edition, where I had Kyle Nash, Travis Holmes on there, Travis brought up a statistic where Sam Howell's had like the 19th most amount of time to make plays back there in the pocket. That's why when Jacoby gets in there, he does a little bit better because he reads the defense a little bit better and can scramble around and move. It's still 19th. It's not like you are the best up there. So it's like the middle of the pack. So when you're still facing a defense, a front in the defense of the Cowboys side, even without Mr. Diggs, okay?
Yep.
Even without that, the amount of noise that they've made this year, you're still not going to be able to compete with that. So I don't think we're going to have a 45-10 game because I don't think the starters for the Cowboys are going to be out there long enough to score 45 points. I think if they get up to 27-10 in similar fashion to yesterday, like the 49ers are going to pull them early, and we're going to see maybe Trey Lance come in and see if he actually gets some action for the NFL season, maybe for a quarter or two. Because there's no point. I mean, the Cowboys are already in the playoffs. They've already clinched the division, especially with what happened with the Eagles yesterday, which that's a big, big dramatic fall from where they were at the start of the season. That's probably one of the biggest falls of the season right there, considering how much hype they had and how well they started the season now. So that 49er game definitely switched the gears for that team. So looking at how things are for the trailblazingest day of the year, I'm just excited to get this over with. I'm excited to put this team behind me and get ready for 2024, but to also, get ready to see some real football, like the playoffs. Like we got some really good teams in the playoffs. Your team still has a chance to make some noise in the playoffs after what we saw last night. So I'm going for you. I'm pulling for the Packers.
We'll see. We'll see.
Because I really like what you got in Jordan Love. I think in the next, I think by the time Aaron Rodgers, it would be funny if by the time Aaron Rodgers retires in the same fashion that he won a Super Bowl in Brett Favre's last year. Brett Favre's last year at the Vikings, it was a very bad year, but that was the year the Packers won their Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers. What if we saw in Aaron Rodgers' final game the Jets versus the Packers? How would you be able to handle that? The Jets versus the Packers in the Super Bowl.
Hey, man. Sorry, A-Rod.
It was,
sorry, A-Rod.
he's been talking about how he's looking to play further than this upcoming year in 2024. What if 2026 is Aaron Rodgers' last season? And by then, Jordan Love has had a few years, just like Aaron Rodgers had a few years at that point, to take the reins of the Packers. And you see something that Brett Favre tried to do, except for, at least they would have met in the NFC Championship. This way, he has a chance to meet his old team in the Super Bowl. How would you handle that?
Well, first of all, Green Bay first. That's first and foremost. But if they happen to lose that game, I'd be happy for Aaron. I got to see him last week, and he's still it's like, he was out there throwing the ball a little bit. I was like, man, it would have been nice to see him play. But I would like to see him still do well. I don't have any ill will with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, I don't think he faked the injury, but it just happened and we don't get this first round pick because he gets hurt at the beginning of the season. It's insane. It's just like, I can't believe it happened, but it would be cool. I'd definitely be all right with it but this team is so young. For me, I think 2025 is the year. Green Bay's got a ton of money. The Aaron Rodgers contract is off the books. They're going to sign Jordan long-term, my guess, this season. Lock him in now for a cheaper price before he gets out of hand. And if you lock him in now, you'll be able to go and, really expand your horizons in 2 years. So the team has and all those good young receivers. I am very impressed. Our GM, Brian Gutekunst, he's saying his last name, Goody Man, as we call him. He's done a really good job there. So we'll see. We'll see.
And doing it without Christian Watson.
No Christian Watson in the last game. No Wicks. Dobbs was still there a little bit. I mean, but two out of our three best receivers and our best tight end hurt, and they're all young. Everybody's 23, 23 and under. Go figure, right?
You got a great young squad there, and you guys see what I did here. Our opponent of the week this week is this game is going to be so bad that I had to switch gears, talk about something positive. I had to talk about something positive, talk about my man's Packers team. to keep things entertained for the Commanders fans. But guys, I mean, definitely you can see on Tuesday mornings, I got to do a Kyle Nash bing, because you can see us talk about Darrell's team and every other team in the NFL and Total Football Talk, 9 a.m. Eastern time for 3 hours. I have never been able to sit here and talk for 3 hours before in my life with anybody other than Cole Johnson. And I absolutely love it every Tuesday morning. It's like Christmas morning every Tuesday. So, but definitely fun. Hope to see you guys in those comments. But we have one more left to go over on this one when it comes to segments, and that being the final drive, where we give our final take of this episode when it comes to this dumpster Pelican team.
We bet on ourselves, so what you expect? A diehard fan never live with regret. Yes.
For the final drive of episode 18, going into week 18, what are your final thoughts when it comes to making the hike, getting up 5-6 o'clock in the morning, getting in that car, FedEx Field?
Oh, man.
Thoughts going into this Sunday's drive, going into this Sunday's expectations for this game, and what you're going to see of the Commanders team?
Well, positive. Well, it's not even a positive. I'm a little bit upset because they moved the game to 4 o'clock. Malarkey.
Oh, yeah, 425.
425 game. I am furious. You hear me? I'm upset inside my heart. Looking into this, whole situation, I see this team, and I had so many expectations at the beginning of the season because I really did think that they would be good enough to make a playoff push, be in contention. Heck, they still in contention 2 weeks ago. That's how crazy the NFC was. So just imagine if they could have snuck a couple of those games that they didn't sneak in, we would have still been talking about, hey, they got a shot here at the end. But what I'm looking forward to seeing is if this team is going to lay down and just finish the season the way it's been and haven't won a game since week 9. Or are they going to go out there against a division rival and punch them in the mouth and give the fans something to smile about going into the offseason? What's going to be fun about this? Well, I don't want to say fun, but it's going to be entertaining about this offseason. The Commanders may right now have the most lucrative job, a coaching job, or soon to be coaching job on the market. You've got a team with a new owner looking to put a stamp on things. Then on top of that, right now you currently have the number 2 pick in the draft. So you can do a lot of things with this pick. If you decide, hey, let me go get my quarterback of the future now, you can go do that. If you decide, no, I'm not going to do that, and I'm going to go pick the best player available, and you can do that. Or, you know what, you can say, hey, better yet, I'm going to auction this pick off and get multiple picks. Right now, this team has the number 2 pick. They got the 33rd, I believe, and the 34th pick, or maybe the 34 and the 35 pick. So that's 3 picks in the top 35 picks in the draft. Well, you got a chance to really make an impact in this organization on the youth front. So what happens here in the next couple of months is going to be critical for this Commanders team going on into the future. So it's going to be a fun offseason, things to see. And the last thing I'll say here on the final drive, I'm going to give you 2 names to look out for head coaches for this Washington Commanders team. My number 1 choice as of right now, and this reason why it's my number 1 choice is because the Commanders a couple months hired a Ravens guy as an analytic guy to come in and help build this team and help reshape this team on that front. Look out for defensive coordinator Mike Macdonald. He's my number 1 choice right now to take over this team. 36 years old, great defensive mind on the team that is the worst defensive team in the NFL right now. And most people are like, Darrell, are you crazy? They need an offensive guy. Guess what? They need both. It ain't they need one or two. They need both. So I think they go after this young guy, especially if you're trying to model your team after the Ravens. And we've heard Josh Harris reports of Josh Harris say he wants to model this team after the Ravens. So if that is the case, watch out for Mike Macdonald as that next head coach, in my opinion, because he's young gun, 36 years old. That's where the league has been trending when it comes to coaches, looking for younger coaches that can connect with these younger players. And the last part of that I will say before I stop talking and let Drew take the stage here will be his wife, former Commanders cheerleader. Go figure. And then the last part, my number 2 guy, Frank Smith, offensive coordinator for the Miami Dolphins.
Okay. That's a lot of good notable names to look at, during this offseason. Some moves that definitely could be made. I mean, right now, especially if they lose this weekend to the Cowboys, Commanders could have the 2nd overall pick. That's the way things are looking right now, because the Bears got that first with the way the Panthers trade, happened. And, it's looking good for the Bears in the draft this year, but the Commanders do have a good amount of picks, but the 2nd overall pick is going to be something to look at, and especially with what they decide to do at quarterback. Jacoby Brissett, Antonio Gibson, Curtis Samuel, I believe all of them are free agents this offseason. So there's going to be a lot of different moves that they can make within this team. So definitely very solid takes on that, especially others. That's only just the offensive side. You got Kendall Fuller and Cameron Curl as free agents on the other side on the defense as well. So definitely going to be interesting to see how that goes. And my man, I definitely appreciate you coming on here today and chopping it up with me when it comes to this team. It's not the easiest conversation to have when it comes to this team.
It isn't. It really isn't.
Possibly can when it comes to this and breaking it down for you, because I'm not trying to paint you a different picture than what we're expecting when what we're seeing on TV, and you see more behind closed doors than what the average public sees, and we talk about it as well. So thank you again for taking the time to bring it here to light today, my man.
No problem, brother. No problem at all. And we're only subtract the 3, go back a little bit, 6 days away from the trailblazing this day of the year. So happy early birthday to my man. Love this guy, man. And I'm so happy and so proud of you, man. Keep doing your damn thing, brother. Keep doing your damn thing.
Thank you, my man. I greatly appreciate it. I greatly appreciate the well wishes from you, and others definitely have uplifted to me to get to this point, and wouldn't be here without you, my man. So I greatly appreciate it. And I got one fire take for you on the way on out when it comes to this team right here.
Don't hurt him, Drew. Don't hurt him.
So yesterday, besides the Commanders game, we got some news that the merger between the XFL and the USFL, we're now going to have the UFL, the United Football League. I think they got it wrong. Then they should have called it the Ultimate Football League. I think that would sound a little bit better than United Football League. Okay, you just took the S out of the USFL. Is basically all you did. It's lazy. You should have called it the Ultimate Football League. But you know what's sad? You know what's really sad? The sad thing is that the Washington team in that league is a better name than the Commanders. A way better name with the Defenders. And you know what else they have that the Commanders don't have? A bear snake! A bear snake, which makes things 10 times better at the game. Sitting here throughout a 4-12 season, I've had a show. You're watching it right now. It's called the Mother, Father, and Commanders Gridiron Report. I would love to change the name of the show. But if you come back next year, I guess I will come back with the name of this show and to keep the energy going.
Let me talk to you.
The Defenders have a better name than the Commanders. I don't know how many times I can sit here and say maybe the United part of the UFL absolutely sucks and they should call it Ultimate. But what's worse is you have another team in the area of that league. It's part of the bigger league, the NFL. A team that's been a part of the league for so many years, going on almost 100 years, that has a legendary history that Darrell talked about earlier with 5 championships, 3 Super Bowls, 2 NFL championships. Yet you have the worst name in the NFL. And then you look at this entire situation right here, where in the same vicinity, in the same geographical area, you have the UFL containing a team called the Washington Defenders. If you're a Commanders participant, whether it's in the front office or a player or now in ownership, you should be embarrassed at the fact that the UFL has a better reputation for the team in the same area. The bear snake and everything getting fans so hype to where they're not cheering on the away team like you see when the 49ers come to town. It brings me back to like when Tom Brady was with the New England Patriots and the Commanders were the then Redskins, like what I normally say, formerly known as the Redskins. Tom Brady come in there, and do you hear many Redskins fans cheering? No, you hear them all cheering for Thomas Edward Patrick Brady II in that stadium. A stadium that has been falling apart, dumping poopy water all over the fans. You've been treating them like you've been dumping on them, and you need to turn it around. Because if you don't, The Rock is going to build the UFL into a bigger entity than the NFL. Probably not. But what he has done is he has a team in Washington that has a better name than the Commanders. That's the biggest part of my argument here. The biggest part of my frustration. You guys need to get it together. I would love to rebrand this show. I know my man Jay Cool, who did the theme song that has been gracious enough to give me for this show, would absolutely love to do a new song. Why? Because the name sucks. But two, because the team sucks, and we need a clean slate with the new name. You could probably win 5 or 6 games next year if you just change the name. It will give you 2 wins if you just change the name. Now, all this energy, this is a year's worth of energy I'm giving you. A year's worth of energy covering this team. The Commanders, also known as the Commies, that I've called them since they changed the name to the Commanders back a little short time ago. I would have much rather you kept the team name to the Washington Team of Football. Switched it from Washington Football Team. Because if you kept it to Washington Team of Football, we could call them #WTF every time they got a loss. I would love to have that right now. I'd love to have the WTF Gridiron Report right now. But we don't. We have the Commanders Gridiron Report. And, soon we'll have Defenders Talk. We'll have on this programming and many other things as well, which you can see that on Total Football Talk on Tuesdays, 9 a.m. Eastern Time. With this final drive, I basically wanted to go on my rant about this Washington team right here. A rant that I've been going on for now 18 weeks. 18 solid weeks now. I did miss one Monday. That was last week because it was Christmas, brought to you on Thursday. It is a little off, me having 2 shows in a week, kind of, with doing one last Thursday and this one. But I have fun each and every week bringing the fire to you because many people.
You should know your role and shut your mouth.
And there are many teams out there that are acting like MJF right now and saying this to the Commanders.
You may claim to be the best in the world, but I'm better than you. And you know it.
And people who don't watch wrestling are probably sitting here saying, what? But what I'm going to sit here and tell you is that if you are going to think that the Commanders are going to play like this for the next 20 years,
stop it. Get some help.
They're eventually going to turn it around, guys. They're eventually going to turn it around. And some of you right now may be looking at the screen, and I'll acknowledge the comments in a second, maybe sitting at the screen and saying this.
Would you please shut the hell up?
But what I'm saying is that
you can't handle the truth.
And as always,
acknowledge me.
Now, let's acknowledge these comments before we get on out of here, Darrell. We got to acknowledge these people because they have thrown in some comments over the past few minutes. Let's see. Oh, wow. So you haven't won a game since week 9. Yes, the Commies have not won a game since week 9. Except for we can't even get excited about that, yes, because some people are going to be this offseason.
You're fired!
They're going to hear it. Old Vinnie Mac is going to get hired just to come in. Because what else is Vinnie Mac going to do? He can do anything else right now. They're going to give him the title just to come in and the one who tells Ron Rivera that you're fired. What the hell is you stay in your Lizzle Ike? I don't know what's going on between the two of them in these games. Oh, and Mickey trying to find people on Facebook. Purdy played the same yesterday as always without the unfortunate tip balls versus a lesser defense. I'd say it's a solid take.
Yeah, it's a solid take.
A solid take there, B. Harris. Appreciate you for joining in for the first time over there on the YouTubes. Appreciate you very much. Oh, wow. The Sam Kennison antics of Drew Willingham is brought to you by Yuck Mouth Dental Insurance. Either keep it minty fresh or keep it shut.
Hey, stop playing.
Wow. Sick is on point with these. And
That's
grimy
great.
chapstick. No mo chip or chip chat. Or chap chat.
Hey, got to get that grimy chapstick, baby. Lips gonna be on point, baby.
Woo! Yeah, I need to do that. And of course, we got Mick and Sick. Mick and Sick saying what's up. And that pretty much rounds up the comments, you guys. I had another great one from Sick Diggy in there. Sick is always throwing in some great one-liners for me to rattle off here in these shows and kind of catch me. So there's been a couple times where I've read it mid-sentence and I'm like, yeah, I can't read the rest of that.
Hey, yo, it's like, nah, I think I'm gonna pass.
But guys, what I do know is this has definitely been another great, fun edition of the Commanders Gridiron Report. Thank you again, Dio, for taking the time to be here today, my man. And we've only got one more thing left to do. We got to look at one badass outro from a man, Dio. I am Drew Willingham, as always. Everyone stay safe out there in these streets.
Where my soldiers, right side, Commanders. Where my soldiers, left side, Commanders. Where my soldiers, right in the middle, Commanders. Where my soldiers, now we step. Where my soldiers, right side, Commanders. Where my soldiers, left side, Commanders. Now we step. Where my soldiers, watch the middle. Commanders, where my soldiers,
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
You ain't got to go home, but you got to get on up out of here. We'll see you next week for episode 19. Again, as always, stay safe out here in these streets.